Hi, this is Dr. Emma Offord, host of This Voice is Mine, the Unquiet Podcast. For every neurodivergent mind that was masked, misread or missed, where identity is reclaimed and the system gets named, This Voice is Mine is a podcast for those who were told they were too much, too sensitive, too chaotic, too intense or not enough. Hosted by myself, Dr. Emma Offord, a clinical psychologist, neurodivergent woman and unapologetic system disruptor. This podcast explores what happens when difference is pathologized and what becomes possible when we drop the shame, the script and the medical model. Through stories, reflections and conversations with people who were never meant to fit, This Voice is Mine reclaims the truth of neurodivergent minds, bodies and ways of being. This is not about fixing or fitting in. It's about remembering who we are and unlearning everything they got wrong. Joining me today is Helen Marie, integrative therapist, author and host of the podcast I don't think we talk enough about. Helen has a busy private practice in London where she supports people to navigate life's complexities and reconnect with their authentic selves. With her background in psychotherapy and counselling and her natural warmth and depth, Helen brings a refreshingly honest voice to conversations about healing, choice and self-discovery. Our conversation was intimate and reflective, full of gentle truth-telling, one of those rich soul-level dialogues that stays with you. I think listeners will love Helen's invitation to slow down, look inward, and, as her book says, choose you. Welcome, Helen Marie. Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. It's lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Emma. I'm so looking forward to coming and chatting with you today, so thank you.
And it's been almost a year since we've seen each other, hasn't it? And so equally, to be in your presence again is just a real pleasure and a real delight, and to have you here today at the launch of our brand new podcast. Yeah. So for those of our audience who don't know you, would you mind explaining a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so or where to start? I suppose I'll start now with I am a therapist with a private practice in London, but work internationally. Yeah. And then through my practice and a lot of the work I do on social media, which is how we connected, so through my Instagram platform, which I love, and it's been a great positivity space, actually. My own podcast was born, the I Don't Think We Talk Enough About, which I can actually say now without making a mistake. Because when I first got that podcast, or started the podcast, I got the title wrong all the time.
Did you?
All the time. Very human. And then I've been doing that for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So my sort of found my voice through that as well.
That's so lovely to hear. And I mean, what we like to talk about on this podcast is how people morph and change and become maybe even sort of hybrid professionals, or they find their voice, they find different identities, different parts of themselves that express later in life or through their journey of growing their voice. And I know that you have quite a hybrid professional career. It would be really lovely to hear a bit about these different hats that you have and have held, and how you've come to your current profession.
Yeah, of course. I suppose I go way back then, because actually this is quite a personal story. And I remember when I first applied to do my therapy training. I went to Regent's University and did my postgraduate diploma in psychotherapy and counselling. Incredibly new. My career before this was my second career. Yeah. My career before that, I was a public health specialist for, the not Public Health England, it used to be called the Health Protection Agency. Loved it, passionate about that job. I specialised in meningitis, very demanding, out of hours on call. But doing that with 3 young children was really challenging. Yeah. And I remember being on holiday once, and my children were 10, 8 and 6, and I thought, and I've been doing this career for 15 or 17 years. And I thought, another 10 years, they're going to be 20, 18 and 16. And they're not going to need me in the same way they do now. And there was a particular incident that happened on holiday that I'm not going to go into, but it involved some escalators, it involved some elderly people, it involved my children running on escalators. It was quite traumatic. Right. And I remember thinking, I actually need to be their mum as well. So I took a career break.
Yeah.
And then through that time, someone very close to us developed some mental health challenges.
Yeah.
And it threw our world upside down. And you never see it coming.
Yeah.
And through our work now, you know how challenging that is for
Yes.
people, and how upsetting and how emotional and how hard it is when you are with someone that you love who has immense mental health issues. I don't like to say problems, so issues, challenges for them. And the work, that the support around this person was incredible. And it saved us all. Wow. It saved us all. And I find that beautiful that we can now say that.
Yeah.
And the story could have been very different. So I had so much admiration for this therapy world, the psychology world, the psychiatric world, and just thought, I always knew I wanted to train again. I always knew once my children were older I would do that. Yeah. So I thought, I've just got to look into psychotherapy. I have to do this. Yeah. And having had that lived experience of seeing someone go through this. So anyway, long story short, when I was at my interview at Regent's, and you'll notice the way I've been saying the story, I'm quite guarded.
Yeah,
and
that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and the psychotherapist taking the interview said, so what's your story for being here? And I said, well, it's not actually my story. And when I told the story, he said, but it absolutely is your, I feel tearful saying it, absolutely is your story. Yeah. But I detached myself from actually me having any space in that story. How could it possibly be my story? It was the other person. And that started this process of thinking that I'd always never thought that my story ever mattered. Yeah. I hadn't. I'd never thought like that. And then when I got accepted, I started on the training. With the particular training I did, we had to undergo very intense personal training. Personal therapy. Yeah. Which I know lots of therapeutic schools and training, you don't have to be in therapy yourself. It's unbelievable being in that chair opposite the therapist and having to be vulnerable and not tell a story that's guarded, but actually what's going on with you. And it completely changed me. And I learned things about me that I didn't know that I was allowed to have a voice. And I know there will be people around me that say, I don't believe that, that's not true. Yeah. Because that's not their experience of me. But they only have a version of me. Absolutely. They don't have the whole of me. They didn't have access to that because I didn't give it. So it was only through therapy that I started to see, I could have a story. I matter too. And all of those aspects around, particularly for me, self-sufficiency. I remember sitting in my first therapy session and I said to my therapist, she told me about yourself. Well, I said, I'm incredibly self-sufficient. And I'm very independent and I don't need anything. It was all, I can see my body language, don't touch me. I'm fine. And she said, you say it like it's a good thing. And I'm like, well, isn't it? And she said, we're meant to need others. Well, I couldn't imagine letting down my guard to be able to say, or even as that relax your body language, that it's safe to need people. And all of those elements that come in around people pleasing. And good girl.
Oh, they're good girls.
And for those, I know that lots of people will listen to this as opposed to watching, but is it being filmed as well? So we box ourselves in when we talk about good girl, people pleasing. And, you know, a lot of my work I now do in therapy is very somatic, it's body work. And gosh, you know, I can move my arms freely.
Yeah,
I'm not covering myself up. And
You can allow that in, can't you?
oh, absolutely allow that in. But yes, that's a very long answer to your question.
And a very beautiful and generous answer to the question. There's so many things that I would want to ask you about that. Some of the things I was noticing were what you were saying there about self-sufficiency and, you know, the more societal or systemic identities that we inhabit, which are the good girl and the people pleasing, and they're rewarded in society, and so we kind of feel like we're doing the right thing and it works for us. So we're kind of managing that, aren't we? And then also when you're talking about, I guess, the sense of threat around, you know, a loved one not being very well and having their mental health challenged, we don't often make space for our story or ourselves because we have to go into that fight flight of help, the carer, the helping role. So I'm just sort of imagining this period of time where you're perhaps feeling very under threat or very worried about a loved one. Yeah. You're doing everything you can. You're putting your energy and your time and your space into their story, not necessarily your experience. Witnessing these incredible people who are really supportive and helping you all, having a discovery there about your loved one, yourself, this whole new world of therapy and what it can do to support other people, and then going on this whole new journey of self-discovery and opening yourself up, maybe to things or parts of your identity that you always held close, felt safe, and you were then kind of making yourself vulnerable in that process. That's an incredible story of this development and growth of your voice.
Thank you, Emma. It does feel like growth, and we were saying off camera that it really is a journey, and it was, you know, all of it from training to become a therapist, from also doing the podcast about being a beginner again, you know, and learning what it feels like to be vulnerable in being a beginner again. And you mentioned vulnerability. I think that's been one of the biggest hurdles for me, is allowing myself to be vulnerable so that I can use my voice.
Yeah.
And we can't just say to people, it's safe to use your voice. Of course it's safe here. Speak, use your voice. Yes, the environment may be safe, but if your internal environment is not safe because you've got different internal script of different lived experiences where your nervous system hasn't allowed you to feel safe before because it's been protecting you, it's going to take a lot of work to say, okay, I can be vulnerable because these people are safe, but I've got to feel safe inside to use my voice. And that vulnerability piece of work is much bigger than I think people perhaps hold an awareness of.
I'm wondering how often we actually use our voice with ourselves. You know, I was just thinking as you were saying about story and particularly about going to therapy and actually realising that you do have a story. And I was thinking that when I first went to therapy as a mum with young twins, and it was the first time that someone had actually asked me something and listened to me for an hour. I was like, oh, hi, I exist as a human and you're actually going to hear me for an hour. And that kind of gave a permission for me to have an inner dialogue with myself again. And to know that your voice, I mean, you know, we know, don't we, that it's in there, it's in every movement, every thought, every piece of us. But to have that permission to even start talking to yourself and own that story felt quite important in what you were saying.
I love that, but also, and I love you sharing that, but as you were talking there, I was thinking, gosh, for so many people who haven't had the space to just talk about themselves for that time, that can also be, I don't know if you feel this, but quite confronting, can't it? Because
it can.
What do I say? Help me, you know. It's really difficult.
It really is. And even as a trained psychologist for many, many years, I had lots of therapy myself. That was also a requirement of some of my training, and something I just chose to do in and out of training anyway, as I was discovering my voice. So it was a slow process and not too exposing at that time. But when I really wanted to explore something, and again, I won't completely share my story, but it was around loss and my father and the trauma I'd experienced around that. And I went to therapy, chose trauma therapy. And I actually didn't tell the entire truth in that therapy.
Interesting.
I told the story because I could script that. I could say, this is what happened to me. But when it came down to talking about my feelings and digging deeper and being more vulnerable, I did a little bit of what we were talking about. The next session I said, I can only do 20 minutes this time. And then the next one I said, do you know what? Everything feels wonderful. And that was my not truth, because I didn't tell the truth so I could get away from that. Even as an experienced therapist who highly values the process, I really struggled with that part of it at that time.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? Because I think, and I know, like for me, it was the body psychotherapy that, because I could tell my story, and I remember going in there and I could reel the whole lot off. And she said, "Oh, it's brilliant. I can hear your story, but you don't feel it." And it was that connection. So it's, it's those different types, isn't it? That you maybe hold the story and then you hold it in your body, or you can articulate the story, but you're not connecting to any point of feeling it. So it's that kind of combination.
It really is, isn't it? And when you were saying that, I was thinking about the somatic work that you talked about, you do as well. And there's an exercise that I use with clients, and that can often tell whether you feel open or closed and feel safe to share, is to sit with your hands resting on your knees, facing up and then facing down, facing up, and keep just turning them up and down and noticing which one feels safer.
Right.
And actually, when your palms are down, you're much more closed. But the moment you open, it's actually too vulnerable. And I remember even in yoga, doing shavasana at the end and lying down and being told to hands face up. And I thought, I'm actually not ready to open myself like that. So it really is on a body level, isn't it? Not
absolutely.
just, we can tell the story, but with no emotion and no connection. It's very different.
And therapy can go straight into talking about your story and asking you to give voice to things that you may never have really truly given voice or even discovered about your voice and yourself before. So that somatic work for me feels like those stepping stones towards embodiment, and finding the safety in your body is often where we might need to start before we can give any voice to. We need to locate it for a start, don't we, in the body as well, before we can give voice to it. And a lot of the work that I do, and I know that you do as well, Jolene, is as we're opening up voices and talking about stories, check in with the body along the way.
Applying the brakes.
Not only going with words or maybe the scripts that we've got about ourselves and our story, but actually the voice is also in the body, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
I was just thinking, guys, that, so my work is content creation and content marketing, and often when I work with people, if we're starting with a podcast or they're getting their book out into the world, it has to be embodying that story gently, gently, gently. And it is literally, it might be as much as posting something on social and then having to go and regulate and breathe and then gradually dialing it up, because as we say, that story is embodied and that story, we are reacting to people hearing us, responding to us. Are we safe to receive any feedback? Are we safe to be seen? All of those things. And we have to gently dial it up. And, usually really quickly, people become accustomed to that visibility and what it means to be seen and heard. But it is a gradual process, isn't it?
Oh, gosh, it is. And as you were saying that, I was thinking it's about seeing the human layer in everyone. That we just assume when we see what's posted on social media that everyone's absolutely fine with it. There's a person behind it. And I wanted to come back to your point as well about, you were saying about checking in when you know, and notice when you said something and checking in with the body. And I remember going to a conference once and being staggered by this. This was way back in my training days, not in since I've qualified. But I was attending this conference and the lecturer came on stage. I can't even remember what it was about now, which is terrible. But I just remember this key piece of information, and there was probably 500 of us there. And she so eloquently admitted that she felt really nervous and she was going to take a moment to regulate. And just, wow, that invitation that we can all be human and that we don't just walk on stage and go, oh, great, I'm here. And some people may, but just inviting people to understand that that's what it feels like to be human, and it's safe to say.
It's permission.
Yeah, permission again. Again, that word, permission.
Yeah. I have a story about having to use my voice and having to be vulnerable and speak about a situation, because I'd been asked to do a presentation. It was in another country. It was quite a big deal for me at the time. It was to about 400 or 500 medical doctors, so not a psychologist, who I felt comfortable and who we might have had differences, but a very collective experience of training and how we do things. So talking about psychological concepts was very easy, or easier with psychologists, not necessarily with more medically trained people. And as I was walking up to the stage, I could feel how nervous I was, and I was shaking. My talk was about anxiety for doctors' patients, how they might feel anxious around health procedures and being in hospital. So it was education around anxiety, feeling 100% anxious and not being able to regulate. I tripped over a floor plug. All my hair fell into my face as I tripped.
Oh, Emma.
And my thought process was, don't move your hair because you'll draw attention to yourself. Because hair in my face isn't drawing any attention to myself, was my logic. So I get on stage. I'm fine. Yeah, exactly. The whole pretend game in of like, I'm absolutely fine. You know, bare minimum visibility. Get on stage. I've still got hair in my face. Cannot remember my passcode to open the laptop. So I just I took a deep breath in front of all of these people and said, okay, I am here to talk about anxiety. You need to give me a moment because I'm flooded with anxiety right now.
Perfect.
And as soon as I made that disclaimer of this is where I'm at and what's happening for me, I started to feel less anxious. And that always really stuck with me, because I had all these expectations of you've got to show up perfect about how you explain anxiety, how you work with anxiety, and how you are not anxious in certain situations, because as an expert, surely you know, they put me in the position of expert. I did not think that about myself, but I need to do that. But I was quite the opposite. And so it went really well. I did not know that throughout the whole presentation, but afterwards people came up to me and they thanked me for that honesty, just like you're saying, Helen, that you think people might judge you for that, and there will be people who do that. They will say she should have got herself together to stand up on there, what's she doing there? So I'm sure there's some of those voices, but a lot of people are so welcoming of that vulnerability, aren't they?
Yes.
They need it.
It's really levelling, though, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's that
It
kind
is,
of
yes.
it's that, like, it's a human condition, or, you know, like, it's okay to be human and to feel uncomfortable and to name it, and that's okay.
I love that. I love that. It is. It's the human condition, and just holding space for that. And what I really picked up on in that story, and I'm really pleased you said it, was because it was a big piece of my own personal development work, was when you said there will have been people that would have judged me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the beautiful truths in that is that's their work.
Yeah.
Because actually, the people who have done the work would never judge.
No.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I just think when you sit with that, you can say, you're really safe to use your voice.
Yeah.
Because when you think how I'm received, as long as it's done with kindness and intent, and I'm holding space for others, and I'm generous and open. How can someone judging you have such an impact where you would doubt your own self-worth? And I think holding that and thinking their reaction is their work, and that has nothing to do with you or how you delivered yourself or showed yourself that day. And I think that can really help calm the waters when you think about using your voice. And I just wanted to add there, because we're talking about books. One of my dearest friends who I trained with, when I had my book coming out a couple of years ago, I was nervous, and I remember I went out for dinner and drinks with him, and he just said the words that have always stayed with me since. You've written the words that you wanted to write. And actually, when you stop with that, you think, it doesn't actually matter now.
Nope.
Because I still wanted to write those words. That was my voice. That was what I wanted to say. And having the confidence to hold your own truth is so powerful.
We don't have to, and we don't have to hold, like, we're not taking over the whole conversation in that space. You're adding your voice to that conversation, being part of it, and it's often the medicine that we need ourselves, isn't it? If we've ever written something, like quite often I'll kind of reread a poem of mine from a while ago, and I'm like, oh, I needed that today. Thank you for asking me. or there'll be something in your own books probably that you read and you're like, oh yeah, that was for me later on, or that was from a version of me. And so in that containment of that piece of work going out as it is, as an offering, it will have its own life in the world. You don't know who's going to read it, who's going to spark it, who's going to have a circle reading your work, who's going to ripple from there. You've put it out there, and that takes a lot of work on yourself, a lot of vulnerability. But knowing that it goes where it needs to go can be really powerful.
But to think in that, there's sadness, isn't it? To think about the amount of people, and we know them, we all know them, and we work with them, that haven't found that. I don't want to say courage, safety.
Safety.
They haven't found that safety within, and I'm sure with you as well, one of our biggest wishes and hopes is that people have the confidence to show up as themselves, and that the world predominantly accepts them for that.
It's not about showing up as perfect. It's not about showing up with the job done of self-exploration and growing your voice. It's always growing, I think. Your voice is always growing and in development. And that's part of that journey, and that authenticity is not to think you have to get to a complete destination. Job's done. Now I'm fully grown, full size. Can relax now.
I was sharing with you before we started off camera. I was saying that when I because I said I wish I'd had a call with you before you'd started your podcast, and I decided not to, because obviously I have my own and you'd been a guest. And I know you were quite shocked when I said the amount of times that I wanted to quit. I can't do this. And I know that people listening will think, Helen Marie, we listened to your podcast. I can't believe you felt like that. And genuinely felt that regularly, that what am I doing? The fear around how I'd be perceived if I said the wrong thing, and or if I didn't look right, or I that old story coming back of being really self-critical of my image, and that's a big thing for me. And I'm being very vulnerable by saying that. That has been a big thing for me of my confidence. I mean, those who know me, who are listening and watching, and or even the person who knows me that will be editing this, I spend my entire life, and she will laugh when she watches this bit, but I spend my entire time, when anyone puts a camera to my face, absolutely hate it. Don't want to be seen on camera. I'm so critical of myself. It's got better, but that's then putting myself on a podcast.
That's huge. Exactly.
Oh my God.
And your words in a book.
All of it. I'm like being seen and using my voice. But I will hand on heart now say that the journey has enabled me to, not in a boss babe way, own my truth. And I really am comfortable with defending myself
Yeah.
or validating how I may feel in some days, and what part of me is, I love internal family systems,
Yes.
what part of me is coming up there, you know, and giving that space and just giving myself the words, as you were saying in the beginning, Jo, about talking to yourself, giving yourself the words you need. And I'm like, I'm okay with that now. Let go of that perfectionism. Gosh, what a relief.
And lovely, like you were saying before off camera, how you've grown through your podcast. Like you can really hear that growth, can't you, in what you're saying? Yeah.
And it's so lovely to hear you say that, because every guest who's come on here so far, so generously, has shared their personal story, and not one person has had an easy story of suddenly becoming a voice that other people are listening to, whether that's Instagram, in their profession, or authorship, or what maybe to the outside world, without hearing their story, might think this might have been easier for them. I could never do that. Well, actually, every guest, including yourself, me, I know both of you, we're still working on it, and we're still showing our vulnerability, and that's the full size. That's the growth, is not to change that or try to change that anymore. It's noticing it's there, and okay, let's put this out into the world a bit more. That's a really...
And it's actually something really vulnerable about doing it in real time. So years ago, I had a blog, you know, when blogging was a big thing. and also microblogging on Instagram and Facebook, right? And I look at my old posts, and I'm a different version of myself. My truth then is different to what it is now. But people that have known me through that time have kind of, you know, come with me or not, and that's fine too. But that takes courage, though, doesn't it, to publicly grow and change.
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit more discerning now with when and how I share, because that's the area of life I'm in right now, and that's fine. I share differently. I kind of tap in, you know, differently to what I want to share. I'm not kind of omni-sharing as much as I was, but doing it in a public arena, it's interesting for so many ways, because you have an archive of versions of you that have been vulnerable, and then you can see your own growth, and we get to witness everyone's growth publicly that way. It's hard.
That's a beautiful point. You know, you can witness your own growth, can't you? And we don't often. I suppose we're getting better at it in our professions because of we're trained and it's work we do, but we're not very good at acknowledging our growth, are we? No. Do you find that? Hang on a minute. Oh, I'm actually so much further along than I ever thought I'd be. Or I love that feeling of that doesn't bother me anymore. Wow.
Such a relief to get that feeling, isn't it? It's so good. I was just thinking then, kind of just relating to all that you were saying, and there was a point in my life where I really felt that becoming a doctor, a clinical psychologist, was my voice growing. I was still on that striving journey of proving myself, doing, you know, I still had huge compassion. I wanted to do that work, but there was a part of me that felt the success was in the recognition and the achievement. And that took a lot for me to admit to that, because I was very connected to all the clients that I worked with and still am. And it was a huge component, but that part also existed. But sharing who you are as a human being was never in my training. It's, you don't take up your space in a therapy space. And I understand many aspects of that. But it extended into, you don't really share with other professionals that you work with. Like, you mask up, actually, and you show up as this professional doctor, clinical psychologist, in pretty much your 9 to 5 or wherever you're seen as a professional and outside of that work. So to show up on social media and to share a bit of my story, to be here, to have been on your podcast, to have been on others, to start to challenge that narrative a little bit about, I actually think it's quite healthy for those people who I work with and who may work with or who never work with me, to know that I have struggled, that it's not easy for me, and that you actually can, you know, share that vulnerability, not fix it necessarily in that kind of idea about, you know, becoming something, I don't, healed, or becoming somebody different to who you are. You can learn to love those parts and respect them and validate them, share them with other people. So I'm on that journey very much.
And we're going to see that they're evolving, aren't we, now?
Yeah.
Because as the podcast brings another element to visibility and to voice and to the story of DL and you, you know, that those edges are going to be blurred between practice and vulnerability.
You're absolutely right. That blurring, which, you know, and I don't know your training, Emma, or, you know, Jolene as well. And we were taught very rigidly, actually, you do not self-disclose.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I'm very, very, I'm very present online, except I don't share personal stuff online. But I do remember a situation with a client where they said to me, Helen, please tell me you have bad days.
Yeah.
Please tell me that you lose the plot sometimes.
Yeah.
Please tell me. And actually, I think it's a disservice to our clients to imply that we're perfect and that we have sorted all of our crap out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, actually, no, I do have meltdowns. Yes, I can catch myself. Yes, I have really bad days. Of course, it's the human condition. We come back to that. We're not human, are we? We're still human. And I think we shape our therapy in the way that feels safe for us and our clients. And I remember reading a paper when I was training that said, you've done your training. The moment you close the door after you've let your first client in, it is now up to you to be the therapist you want to be. Yeah. And I think we all have to manage that in what feels safe for us. But we're human.
Yeah, I totally agree with there's value.
Oh,
yes,
good, I'm not being shut down here.
No,
Using my voice.
Value absolutely, there is value, and I think you use your own judgment in the session, don't you? And actually, is this going to be helpful to my client if I share that with them? So not from a it becomes about you, but actually is this going to be helpful to them and valuable to them? Actually, it is, because we are human as well. And just you see it, you know, when I have done that, you see the shoulders drop, and it's just thank God someone gets it. And you're not just here doing therapy, but actually we've got a huge lived experience that brings part to that therapy as well.
So true, Jolene. So true.
Yeah. So many people may go to therapy or some helping professional with a sort of power dynamic of you might have the answers for the problematic me. You can help me be the me I should be, and I think it really helps to break down that dynamic and kind of equalise. We're both two humans in a room. I happen to have some training and some experience in this area. You have some wonderful training and experience in your life. We can meet together and we can, work on this. I can also share some human elements of who I am. I remember a client saying to me, she has had a lot of sensory sensitivity, and she felt so much shame about it because it felt silly to her. And she also said straight to me, outright, Emma, I know you have sensory sensitivity. You talk about this. Can you share something? And I said, yes, I can. I cannot stand mushed bananas. And I don't, even the smell or knowing they're around triggers me. And I knew I could share that with her because it wasn't too deeply personal, that it was taking away from her space. But she really needed to know that I also feel silly or shameful about something that other people would probably not understand, that mushed bananas are such a big dysregulating experience for me. And again, her shoulders dropped and she said, that meant so much to me, but also that I could answer her question, that I could meet her as a human with an experience that other people might not get. And, it wasn't a deep psychological formulation. It was simply mashed bananas. And, it was really, and she taught me a lot. And other people I've worked with have taught me a lot that's a really important place to be, is with them in humanity.
That makes me consider. So if we're thinking about sharing stories and being vulnerable, and we're thinking about our careers and our professionalism and how we show up, whether we're authors, podcasters, professionals showing online, it's about that discernment of how far you want to go, isn't it? Because if I think of the hashtag girl boss stuff, you know, I'm owning my truth, I'm out there. You don't have to go fully sharing literally every micro detail if that's not who you are and not how you want to be. And those boundaries might change as you evolve, you know, with what you want to share and how you want to share, and being discerning with who you're sharing with and which audiences, and if you're sharing anything at all. So you're, you know, saying that you don't share personal things on your Instagram and on your page necessarily. Brilliant. And that might change, it might not. But your voice, your story is still powerful. It's knowing those parameters with which you're comfortable to share them will be different for everybody, whether it's mashed bananas or beyond. You know, we all have our version of mashed banana, don't we? That we want to be able to say, you know, here's me. I'm going to show you this much, and that's what I'm comfortable with right now, and meet you there, depending on your professionalism and depending on your own personal, you know, boundaries around it.
Yeah, and you're so right. And when you said that we all have the mashed banana, but we do. But in terms of it giving you permission to have a voice, what you did in that moment was so beautiful, is that it enabled your client to feel safe to use her voice to say that she had that. Because if you could say it, then it's exactly that, there is a world in which I can exist where I can feel safe to share this.
And I also think about that story and you know, the one you shared, Jolene, and I know other ones that you will have experienced as well, Helen, that I was listening to her voice. She was asking, would you meet me? It was beyond, are you sensory sensitive to something? Can we relate? You know, she was asking for that meeting of people. So it is also listening, isn't it? Not only raising your voice, it's tuning in and listening to other people's vulnerability and being the accepting, compassionate person to their difference. Or
absolutely. And our profession really does help or guide people to have the tools to use their voice. And, you know, I'm so grateful to my therapist for giving me that confidence that, you know, and turning my world around. And I'm not going to share the particular story, but something I took to therapy with her, that it was just a comment I made that I couldn't do this because it would upset these people. And she just said, I just remember her face. What on earth do you mean you can't do this? And I was so shocked that someone could actually have a different opinion to this story that I told myself, that I could not do this because it would upset other people. And she gave me the confidence to do it. And I did it 5 years ago. And my life is unrecognisable. And some people have stayed, and that's been amazing. And some people have left. But I'm okay with that because she helped me realise that was their work. How could you not let someone have their own dream? Because if we all just let people have their dreams in a kind, safe, respectful way, how could you possibly not want the best for someone?
Absolutely.
So that I'm indebted to her for just her reaction of, what on earth do you mean? She made my request for what I wanted seem like ridiculous that I couldn't do it. It was just like she was flabbergasted that I was holding all of these other people's. She said, you can't just hold everyone else's work or worries or concerns. You're someone in the middle of it.
Absolutely.
So really found my voice through that. Really,
I love that.
my voice.
And I really relate to that because my therapist,
I love
we
this.
had a similar conversation, and she's part inspiration for the name of this podcast. When I was talking to her about certain things and people's reaction to me doing these new things in my life, she said, well, and she helped me word it in the sense that I'm growing full size and I haven't been full size, and some people will find that threatening. Some people close to you will want you to stay as you were, keeping the balance as it was because it works for them. And when you grow full size and decide to maybe disrupt some things a little bit, you're not completely departing from who you are or the relationship, but maybe you're adding something a bit more for you, a bit more of your voice, a bit more space for what you'd like to grow into. That's not always okay for other people. And that's hard, isn't it? Because you've taken their feelings into account for a long time and you're still taking their feelings into account. Yeah. But you haven't been taking your own.
And this is the detriment of yours. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the turning point where you think, oh, I'm allowed, I should take my own feelings and needs into account. And it can surprise you that you haven't been doing that. Can't it?
And that sounds really simple, doesn't it, when you say, I can take my feelings into account, when it's so black and white like that. But we are conditioned and we've got all these layers that we say we can't. And actually, when you say it aloud, it's like, it's really powerful.
I had got the image of like a jack in the box. And like, you know, you've kind of been in that box for so long and then it's like, ta-da! Yes!
It is that. Yeah. My therapist described it beautifully, very similarly. She said it's almost as if you are in a cage and the cage, you're the bird in the cage and the cage door is shut.
Yes.
And she said, all I'm trying to do is open it for you and just let you fly out. And it's so powerful.
It is. And I think sometimes when you externalise what's happening inside of you in relationally to a bird cage, to a jack in the box. I also had the image of a box and kind of pushing against the ceiling and the doors and trying to find a door or window. That visualization and where you see yourself, I think you can bring maybe sometimes more compassion because you're seeing what's happening to you, whereas when it's sort of inside of you, not expressed, maybe not externalized and visualized, it's sort of what you do rather than what you're feeling.
And that you can kind of close that down, can't you? Like much like you were saying right back at the beginning. And then I think once you have peeked out or you've opened the door, you can't go back in. So once your voice has started to be heard, there's no squeezing you back in that anymore, no clipping your wings. Actually fly.
I know. And actually that's such a beautiful visual because there's something, it's almost energy inducing, isn't it? Once you start and you get this confidence, I can keep using my words or meeting my needs that perhaps you never even realised before you had needs because for so many people they can struggle to even consider that they may have needs too. So once you start, it's like you've started something.
You cannot go back. You can't be pulling it back. You're just pulling away. No, you can't go back. Absolutely. And I often describe that as the bubble being burst, like being this kind of I must bubble. It gets popped by some new knowledge about myself or something, or a new feeling or a new discovery. It's kind of burst and you can't recreate that. You cannot step back into not knowing once you kind of know more about yourself in that way.
And I was just thinking of a couple of things that really burst that bubble, which I'm sure we can all relate to, which is late diagnosis and peri. I mean, those things are bubble bursters, aren't they? Which, you know, are kind of intersectional things. And we talk about the intersectional, trauma series that we talk about on Instagram. Like, you know, within those intersections, we're starting to learn so much more about ourselves. And that accelerates the jack in the box, doesn't it?
Yes. And as you say, you can't unlearn it, can you? And you're saying with Jo, you were talking earlier about versions of you, and actually you're suddenly a new version. You can't go back. But that even as you said it, Emma, I noticed my body language. I noticed my sensations. I was like, oh, that feels uncomfortable, and you can get that initial uncomfortable. I want to go back. But that isn't there anymore. And that can be really challenging in itself as well.
It's the known and familiar.
Yes.
That feels safe. That feels certain, even when it limits you. Because maybe you didn't know that at the time, but it felt...
Sorry. No. I was going to say, like, more to kind of what you were saying, Emma, about when there's people that can't travel with you as that version starts to come up, and that's when it's hard because you've started to widen, and then you see the people, and you were saying as well, like people get left behind, and I think that's where it's really hard because part of you wants to go back in the box because you're not ready to leave them behind, or you know, that kind of thing, and then but actually it's like I can't anymore because I'm opening up to my full size, and it's
I know.
Yeah.
And that links into what I was going to say about Emma's or DL's post this morning around that space between beginnings and
The threshold grief.
and it's there, isn't it? And it's that space and what we do with that space. Do we move forward? Do we stay? Are we open to it? You know, and it's a beautiful post. I loved it.
Yeah, that new beginnings can bring grief, and you're holding space between these seemingly contradictory or opposing places of movement or emotions. So we're coming close to the end of our podcast. It's flown. I would love, if you wouldn't mind, if each of you could maybe leave something for our listeners around growing full size, around growing your voice. You've all said so much already, but if there's a parting few words that you wouldn't mind leaving with them, that they can maybe hold close as they're beginning their journey of maybe finding voice or growing full size, would that be all right to share?
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Should we start left to right? So I would love to share that whispering your voice to yourself is really powerful. And if you're not ready to speak in an auditorium, speak to yourself in your journal, speak to your close circle of friends, start using your voice in a way that feels important to you, and trust that voice as it flourishes.
Beautiful.
And I would say, go gently with yourself as you start to really hear that inner voice, and keep yourself safe, but surround yourself with beautiful friends, deep friendships, and just gently allow that voice to start to come up and be heard, and you move through that.
That's beautiful. I noticed the way that you, actually mine's quite similar to both of yours in a kind of amalgamation, really, because as you were speaking, I was thinking what I wanted to say was a practice I come back to time and time again to connect my mind and my body is to place my hand just gently on my heart and to take a beautiful deep breath in and out, and just remind myself that I matter too. And it can be as small as that, because something shifts just in that moment, that you are a person, that you can take up space too. So that would be my offering.
I love all of those. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Can I ask you what yours
is? Yes. And then they're going to ask me now.
You're not getting away with it.
So I was preparing in my head just in case.
I know that Helen's going to say.
I was thinking it is a hard question to answer, but what anchors me and helps me continue is to return to my fight energy, which is to say to myself, there's no one truth. That person might have their truth, another person might have theirs. And I guess it's also similar to everything you were all saying, but the way I phrase it is that, like, and you have your truth, and other people don't have to see that as a truth. We can have all these multi-stories of truths and personal experiences. So that helps me get back into my, it's okay, keep going. There's no one truth here. You don't have to prove truth to everybody or truth of yourself. You can just honour your own truth.
Love
Thank you, Emma.
Beautiful. I love that, Emma.
Thank you. Oh, thank you all so much for joining and being spontaneous. Yeah, it's been delightful to have you, Helen, and to have both Jo and Jolene join us as well. It's been really special to all be together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen.
I've absolutely loved this. When you said it was nearly over, I was like, no! I was going to sit and chat to you all day. What a lovely thing you're creating. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you, everyone.